I know it might be hard to believe from all the depressing news headlines, but the world is the best it's ever been. No, seriously. Research has demonstrated that the world is at its best version of itself when it comes to safety. Hooray! Humans are living longer lives, less populations are experiencing hunger or living under the poverty line, even global homicide rates have decreased. It's true, the world is sometimes still pretty awful, but for the most part, we are doing much better than our ancestors. But brainiacs, don't get too comfortable. The future is anything but certain, and there are still plenty of things that can go wrong. So while you may be sitting at your desk drinking your second coffee of the day, certain that you will live until you're 90 years old, we're here to prepare you for the absolute worst-case scenarios. Just in case. From surviving an avalanche, to escaping a charging bull, to outrunning a pack of zombies, here's how to survive basically anything. Let's say that your desk job is officially driving you crazy. Tired of your emails, non-stop meeting requests, and worst of all, your coworkers who won't stop sending you memes. You decide to unplug and go into nature in order to get back in touch with Mother Earth. Now let's say that you're really committing to this and somehow find yourself in the middle of the desert, stranded. Turns out you don't actually know how to use a compass. In the desert, it's important to avoid heat exhaustion from drastically high temperatures, so travel in the evening, night, or early morning when it's coolest, and walk slowly to conserve your energy. Keep your clothes on to protect your skin from the harsh sun rays and to breathe through your nose, not your mouth, so that your lungs don't fill up with hot air. Keep yourself hydrated. If anything, avoid eating if there is not a sufficient amount of water readily available, since your digestive system requires a lot of water. The best places to look for water in the desert are at the base of rock cliffs, in the gravel wash from mountain valleys, or near green vegetation. Animals and birds tend to flock towards water, so when in doubt, follow them. The base of cactus stalks, also known as the pitch, carry some water. Take a few chunks with you to alleviate thirst while walking, but be careful not to swallow. Finally, it'll be important to create yourself some sort of shelter to rest and shade yourself from the beaming sun. Look for a space between two dunes and dig a 3 to 4 foot deep trench that is long and wide enough to accommodate your body. Because you're bold and adventurous, of course, let's say you decide to experience the complete opposite end of the drastic weather spectrum and find yourself caught in the middle of a mountain on an epic ski trip. Avalanches are common enough, especially on mountaintops, so listen up. Once the wrath of the white powder has begun to fall, stay on top of the snow by using a freestyle swimming motion with your arms. If you're buried under the snow and you're not sure which way to begin digging, create a small hole around you and spit in it. The saliva should head downhill, giving you the idea of which direction is up. If you have a ski pole around you, poke through the snow in several directions until you see or feel open air. Then dig in that direction. But you'll have to dig quickly before the snow settles, and that powder is very wet, dense, and heavy. You may not be an outdoorsy person and therefore would never find yourself in either of these circumstances, but you can bet that urban life is as uncertain as the natural world. Let's say that you're driving but become slightly preoccupied with your ex's latest Instagram post. As a result, your car swerves off the side of the bridge, hits the water, and slowly begins sinking. As you hit the water, open your windows. This is your best chance to escape before the doors will be too difficult to open given the outside water pressure. If your power windows don't work or you can't roll down the windows all the way, attempt to break the glass with your foot, heavy objects, or the rods of your car seat headrest. If, for whatever reason, you're unable to open the window or break it, your final option is to wait for the car to fill up with water. Once the water reaches your head, hold your breath, keep calm, and open the door to your car. Since the pressure should be equalized inside and out, the doors will open more easily. Finally, get out of the car. Don't worry about leaving anything behind. You can make that tweet about climate change later. Now that you're safely away from your sunken vehicle, let's say you get home to your 5th-story apartment to rest your head from your adrenaline-filled day. Your roommate, however, left his frozen pizzas in the oven for too long, and your oven has combusted into flames. You'll have to get out ASAP, but because of the fire, you can't leave through the front door. The window is your only option. When the coast is clear, open your window and spot the nearest dumpster bin at the bottom of the complex. When your ex isn't looking, jump straight down. Resist your natural tendency to push off the building, since this will create an angle that will most likely make you miss the dumpster. As you fall, tuck your head, bring your legs around, and land with your back facing down, almost like a somersault. When you land, your body should fold into a V shape. And don't forget to aim for the center of the bin. Because we aren't the only creatures on this planet, chances are you will encounter some wildlife in your lifetime. If you aren't prepared, you can face some serious injuries if you ever encounter animals in the wild. Take a bear, for example. Since we aren't exactly dealing with Winnie the Pooh here, if you're ever directly faced with a bear, it's important to lie still and keep quiet. Don't even try to climb a tree. Stay where you are. Odds are that bear will leave you alone if you stay put. If you manage to see the bear before it approaches you, make your presence known by talking loudly. Bears are always dangerous, but they're a considerable more threat if they have been protecting their cubs or defending a fresh kill. If the bear still attacks you, strike back and go for its eyes or its snout. The water also has its own fair share of unfriendly creatures. Take the shark. To fight off a shark, use anything that you have in your possession to hit the shark's eyes or gills, which are the most sensitive areas to pain. Make quick, sharp, and repeated jabs in these areas. Be sure to take off any shiny jewelry because the shark might have mistaken your fancy accessories as the sheen off of fish scales, especially when it's reflected in the light. By now, you should feel ready to take on the real world, but because the world is constantly changing and no one really knows what's around the corner, we really ought to prepare you for the absolute worst-case scenario: a zombie apocalypse. Now, depending on who you are, there are different ways to kill a zombie. Your first option is to ignite them with fire. Game of Thrones suggests that setting zombies or White Walkers on fire is the sure way to guarantee they will not chase you through the Seven Kingdoms. If we're talking about The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon suggests a clean headshot will destroy its brain. Whatever tactic you decide to use, just be sure to avoid any zombie guts, gore, flesh, or brains, as such contact is sure to result in your very own zombification. Picture this. It's pretty much everyone's worst nightmare scenario, but somehow you've gotten yourself buried alive. The first thing you do is check to see if you have any cell service. No, seriously, that would probably be your best bet. Don't have your phone on you? Well, now it's a little more complicated. Hopefully you're buried in a really cheap coffin. Thanks, friends and family. Pull your shirt over your face to protect yourself because the next part is gonna get a little messy. Kick the middle of the coffin. That's where it's structurally weakest to create a tiny crack. The crack lets in dirt and works to alleviate the pressure that's being pushed onto the coffin. Keep kicking and put your head through the growing crack, and once you're able to, start wiggling yourself up from 6 feet under and get the heck out of there. We've all heard the run-of-the-mill advice to play dead if we ever find ourselves face-to-face with a bear, but how legit is that information? Well, it turns out this advice only works with brown grizzly bears. If you were ever to encounter another type of bear, like the common American black bear, you might as well plate and garnish yourself for their enjoyment. Instead, if you know in advance that you will be in bear territory, be sure to pack yourself some bear pepper spray. When you encounter a bear, make yourself small and retreat slowly. If the bear approaches, direct the pepper spray into its face. If you're fighting the black bear specifically, animal behaviorists have suggested that you attempt to fight back. Black bears are much more motivated to go for easy or docile prey, so use anything as a weapon and aim for their face, more specifically, their eyes. This should deter them from approaching you any further and motivate them to look for prey that flails less frequently. Another common survival myth involves some pretty harsh winter conditions. Let's say that you're stranded at the top of a mountain awaiting help and find yourself desperate for some water. You may have heard somewhere that you can ingest snow to hydrate your body, but if you really think about it, this runs the risk of swallowing pollutants, sediments, and not to mention there's always the danger of yellow snow. But there is another reason why you shouldn't eat snow. When you're in below freezing temperatures, your body needs all the energy it can to preserve the existing heat that it's working overtime to keep in your system. Because the snow has to melt inside your body, the heat that your body needs to conserve for basic functioning will be directed towards digesting the snow. A better solution would be to find a way to melt the snow first. One easy way you can do this is store some snow in a plastic or Ziploc bag. Make sure to eliminate as much air as possible and then keep it close to your body, ideally under a layer of clothes. Once the snow is melted, clear any visible impurities and drink up. What about that survival tip that urges those who have been bitten by a snake to suck out or push out the venom? Well, this is not that inviting whitehead that you love to pop. Treating your wound this way will increase the odds of it getting infected and possibly spread the venom much faster down your bloodstream. Instead, cover the bitten area to avoid further infection and remove any restrictive clothing or jewelry to assure that your body's blood flow is maintained. While keeping yourself warm, call 911 and relay all the possible details about the snake, from its color to its size to the pattern on its back. This will be very helpful when you seek medical attention, so they can prescribe you the right medication or antivenom to combat the harmful substances in your bloodstream. Whatever you do, don't try to DIY this medical treatment. Let's leave that to the professionals. Speaking of unfriendly creatures, what about that myth about treating a jellyfish sting by peeing on it? Maybe you remember that Friends episode where Chandler has to, do his business on Monica's leg? They were convinced that the ammonium, or something like that, can treat the prickling sensation commonly felt by a jellyfish sting. Researchers have actually advised against this, stating that this could actually make things worse. Instead, rinse off the affected area with seawater and dose it in a good amount of vinegar. Pluck the tentacles using tweezers and apply heating pads to the affected area to reduce the pain of the sting. But maybe you aren't set on an island destination and prefer to wander in the 100-acre woods. Now hold on there, Bear Grylls. Don't forget to take your compass, because the old-timey myth about the moss growing on the north side of the tree is bogus. This myth comes from the belief that since the sun moves from east to west, the north side of the tree grows moss because it's less exposed to sunlight. The truth is, trees can be shaded from any direction for any reason. Moss just needs a cool and damp environment, so factors like climate, geographic location, and seasons play a big role in its growth. Let's say that you're really stranded in the middle of the forest, though. Your first instinct may be to make a fire. Well, according to survivalists, you might actually want to focus your attention on finding or making shelter first before anything else. Not only will this protect you from the potential elements like rain or wind, but it'll provide you with a safe place to rest and restore your energy. Once you have a roof over your head, then go ahead and make your fire. But if you're thinking about finding shelter in a cave and building a fire there, you might want to rethink your choices too. Heat causes rocks to expand, which can lead to breakage and potentially cause a cave-in. And those matches that got soaked in the rain that you were trying to dry out? Yeah, don't waste your time with those. Once matches are wet, the chemical balance between the sulfur and oxidizer are altered. Instead, invest in some waterproof matches or a waterproof carrying case. But maybe you didn't pack any of that. But you still have your trusty flask in your bag full of whiskey. That ought to warm you up, right? After all, you can count on all the Western/trekker/explorer movie heroes that take a swig from their flask and they appear to be keeping warm. But again, you'd be wrong. Drinking alcohol dilates your skin's surface blood vessels, which will bring down your body temperature even further. Because you need to conserve all your body heat, swigging from your flask isn't a bright idea. Opt for hot water, tea, or cocoa if you can instead. New York City. The Big Apple, the concrete jungle, the city so nice, they named it twice. We need to get a good look at that infamous skyline. I'm convinced if we get to the top of the Empire State Building, we'll get the best view of modern Manhattan. Let's take the stairs. Just kidding, definitely hop in the elevator. Imagine, we're going to the top of the Empire State Building, the location of some of the most famous movies of all time. Sleepless in Seattle, Elf, King Kong. Whoa, wait a minute, what's that? Our elevator stalled? Oh, that's not good. Yep, and those are the lights. Okay, do not panic. Do not panic. I think we're going down! Yep, we are officially in a free-falling elevator in a skyscraper with over 100 floors to go at over 60 kilometers an hour. So you may be thinking to yourself, is there any possible way to survive this? I mean, there's no way, right? Well, Brainiacs, in this video, we'll give you the ultimate survival guide on how to live and tell the tale about how you survived a free-falling elevator. Plus, we're talking about quicksand, piranhas, fires, oh my. But before we dive in, don't forget to smash that notification bell so you can keep up to date on all of our survival videos. Might save your life one day. Oh right, you're still here. Okay, we'll get back to you in a minute. Moving on. Woo! Okay, back on solid ground. Now, because you spent way too much time browsing Netflix, we know you've based all of your expedition expectations on Indiana Jones. So you don't have a whip, at least you got a hat. Now let's say you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark and become inspired to make your way to the desert. Not our first choice, but whatever. As you stroll along, you find yourself beginning to sink. No, you're not getting shorter, you're in quicksand. Think quickly. Here's how to survive getting stuck in quicksand. First of all, make yourself as light as possible. Toss any articles of clothing like backpacks or jackets that may be weighing you down. This will prevent you from sinking any quicker than you already are. Remember to keep your arms up and out of the quicksand to free up your hands so you can grab a sturdy branch or tree trunk or even a friend's hand to pull yourself out. Your best bet to escape the vacuum of quicksand is to backpedal and walk towards more solid ground, ideally where you were standing just before you started to sink. Whatever you do, make sure that all of your movements are slow and deliberate. When you're stuck in quicksand, your whole body is basically getting sucked into a sand vacuum, so move slowly. Otherwise, you will surely decrease your odds of escaping. Once you're out of there, grab all your belongings that you tossed to the side and be on your way. Oh, and don't forget your hat. Let's say that while on expedition, you come across a river. There's no way around, so your only choice is to move forward and onward. Easy peasy. That is, until you notice the river is infested with deadly piranhas. Common problem. We've all been there. Just for you, Brainiacs, here's how to cross a piranha-infested river. First of all, you definitely do not want to cross the river if you have an open wound. Piranhas are attracted to the smell of blood, but lucky for you, piranhas do not generally attack humans or large animals unless they're already dead or injured. If for whatever reason you absolutely need to cross that river, be sure that it's at night. Virtually every species of piranha rests at night, and when awakened in the middle of the night, will swim away rather than attack. As you maneuver through the water, swim or walk across quickly and quietly. Try your best not to create large disturbances in the water. Lucky for you, piranhas are not so commonly found unless you're in the backwaters, slow-moving rivers, or floodplains of South America. But South American Brainiacs, you better be on the lookout. Okay, so you tried the Indiana Jones thing, and well, that was interesting. Let's just say that you won't be bragging about your profession as an archaeology professor or professional treasure hunter anytime soon under your Tinder profile. But hey, at least now you know. No, you're more of a city rat. I can sense that about you, which is why you ended up in New York City in the first place. Which reminds me. Okay, so you're free-falling down 102 stories of the Empire State Building. Don't worry, Brainiacs. If it makes you feel any better, in 1945, Betty Lou Oliver, an elevator operator, plummeted 75 stories down the Empire State Building, and to this day, she holds the Guinness World Record for surviving the longest elevator fall. So listen up. Here's what we're gonna do. Unlike those myths you may have heard, jumping at the moment the elevator touches the ground will not significantly improve your chances of survival. The most it'll do is decrease your speed by about 3 kilometers an hour. Not to mention, there's a good chance that upon jumping, you may hit your head on the ceiling of the elevator, causing a major concussion. So save your hops and lie down on the floor of the elevator instead. Spread your arms and legs across the entire floor and lay absolutely flat. Engineers and physicists claim this will help distribute the force of the fall to your entire body, increasing your chance of overall survival. When you feel the time is right, cover your head with your hands. With an impact like that, you'd have to protect your head from the debris that will fall from the ceiling or the surroundings of the elevator. Experts agree that this is the only realistic way to survive such a fall. Just ask Betty. Wow, what an adrenaline rush. Let's get you to the hotel and rest that pretty head of yours, huh? Ah, some good shut-eye. That'll be good for you. Wait a minute. Is that smoke I smell? Uh-oh, it looks like a fire. And as much as you'd like to run out the front door, down the lobby, and out the main gates, you realize you're on the 8th floor. Well, Brainiacs, here's a guide to how to survive a high-rise hotel fire. First, dampen and soak as many materials as you can in cold water. If the fire is far away, then make your way to the closest exit. Use towels, washcloths, bed sheets, and blankets, and use those wet clothes over your mouth and nose to prevent taking in any nasty, smoky air. If you're certain fire is far away from you and it's safe to evacuate the building, stay low and keep one of those damp towels over your mouth and nose. If the fire is right outside your door, wedge those wet towels and bed sheets in the crack to keep the smoke out. Turn off the fans and air conditioners that could draw smoke into the room. Open the windows slightly and signal to rescuing personnel using a white towel or flashlight. If there's absolutely no help in sight and breathing becomes more difficult, kick through the wall into the adjacent room, especially in closets because it's mostly drywall. This will be easier to tear down. Even just a small hole can help bring in some good clean air into the room. Now, this is your absolute last resort, but if you can't breach the wall, consider climbing out onto your balcony and down to a lower floor. But again, we don't claim you're Spider-Man, so as long as it's safe, stay where you are as long as possible. Okay, so that hotel idea was a bust. Let's get you to the hotel across town, on the 1st floor this time, and close our eyes after an adrenaline-filled day. Oh, look, there's a car already waiting for you. Wait a minute, why is the trunk open? That's odd. Okay, now stay calm. You're in the trunk of a car. Turns out, Indiana Jones, your amateur treasure hunting got you into some major trouble. Fear not, here's how to escape from the trunk of a car. First, check to see if the car has seats that will go all the way down. Look out for any materials like a latch that you can pull, which will prompt the seat to fold over. You can then escape from one of the side doors. If this is not the case, many cars have a button by the driver's seat that will open the trunk of the car. There should be a cable that runs from the release lever or button to the trunk. Look for the cable underneath the carpeting or upholstery. If you locate the cable, pull on it to release the trunk latch. If you can't locate it, look for a tool in the trunk. Under that same carpet where you can locate the spare tire, use a screwdriver, flashlight, or pry bar to latch open the trunk or dismantle the car's brake lights, which can be done by yanking wires and pushing or kicking the lights from the inside. Then signal your way to safety by grabbing the attention of oncoming traffic or pedestrians. And just like that, you've managed to survive every sticky situation. On second thought, maybe you are built for the Indiana Jones life. We'll give you some time to think about it. After all, you know how to survive everything by now, right? If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for a healthy dose of how to survive videos. Later, Brainiacs.